This is cause for concern, but it is also certainly not a cause for us to panic.
The first case of Omicron has been detected in the U.S., right here in California, what we know so far.
UC San Diego has already been testing from COVID-19 samples in their wastewater. Now they're looking for the Omicron variant in those samples.
We're facing the biggest challenge to Roe v. Wade in recent history. Coming up, I'll tell you how Californians could be impacted.
The Navy announced their commitment to sustainable energy, why they say it's a matter of national security.
And how a San Diego teenager's Marvel musical may soon make it to the bright lights of Broadway.
And we get an up-close look at Santa's recently retired ride. News 8 starts right now.
The first official case of the COVID-19 Omicron variant has been detected in the U.S. right here in California. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
And I'm Jesse Pagan. Health officials say a San Francisco resident tested positive Monday after traveling back from South Africa last week. Scientists at UC San Francisco found the variant through genomic sequencing and in-depth analysis of a test sample. We're told the person has mild symptoms and is in self-quarantine. They were vaccinated but did not have a booster shot. While there's still a lot of unknowns when it comes to Omicron, state and health officials say there's one thing we can all do.
What is our message here in the state of California? Well, let's continue to do what we've done.
Get vaccinated, for goodness sakes, if you have not been vaccinated. Get your booster if you're eligible.
The governor says more than 92% of Californians 18 and older have gotten at least one vaccine shot, and nearly 6 million boosters have been administered.
Travelers flying into the U.S. could soon face stricter COVID testing requirements. The CDC is considering mandatory COVID tests within 24 hours of departure for everyone flying into the country. Right now, the rule is 3 days. The possible new requirement would be for foreign nationals and U.S. citizens, regardless of vaccination status. The CDC is also expanding surveillance for Omicron at 4 of the busiest international airports in the country. Since the strain was first announced, researchers at UC San Diego have been on the lookout for it here in the county.
For more than a week, they've been testing the wastewater of people with COVID-19 with a new process. News 8's Heather Hope shows us how soon researchers can now get results.
Here at UC San Diego, researchers already got a head start in testing for the Omicron variant. This is from positive COVID-19 samples found in wastewater and from clinical tests.
We feel really confident that if Omicron enters our population, we will be able to identify it.
That building's wastewater sample has been picked up.
Taking samples from sewage at UC San Diego, then running it through these high-tech machines. Next, scientists bring the wastewater sample inside the lab for further testing.
Therefore, we know which variants are going into and potentially leaving our population.
Dr. David Pride says since March 2020, researchers on campus have been processing sewage using a robotic platform. They've identified the Alpha, Beta, and Delta variants and are on the lookout for the latest Omicron.
We have been on higher alert for about the past week, maybe a little bit longer, about the Omicron variant.
Dr. Pride says some mutations of the Omicron variant appear to be identical to mutations researchers saw in the Alpha variant. Through UCSD's automated system, it can process 24 samples every 40 minutes.
We put it through what is a fairly involved process where we will take the RNA from the virus, turn it into DNA, and then put it on a sequencer and then analyze all of those results.
From testing to data sequencing, Dr. Pride says researchers expect to know within days and less than a week if the Omicron variant is present in San Diego.
So the second we get an inkling that someone might have the Omicron variant, we will move it through the pipeline as fast as possible to try to confirm that diagnosis.
Heather Hope, News 8.
Today is a deadline for San Diego City employees to get vaccinated. Those who refuse risk getting fired. Right now, around 2,000 city employees are not fully vaccinated, many of them police officers. City employees still have 30 days before they could face termination, and then there is always the possibility they can appeal.
The future of Roe versus Wade is in the hands of the conservative-leaning Supreme Court.
There were protests outside the High Court today as the justices heard oral arguments in a Mississippi abortion case that could result in the repeal of the 1973 law that legalized abortion across the country. News 8's Kirsten Holmes has been following the story and joins us in studio with the details. Kirsten?
Yeah, pro-life and pro-choice activists are all speaking out as the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade could bring abortion bans to half as many states across the country.
The question is whether a decision that has lasted for 50 years ought to be overturned. The argument is that women have come to rely on this liberty interest. Of course, there are some on the other side that say we're really not talking about one life here. We're talking about two.
Dan Eaton is a local attorney who says if the Supreme Court repeals Roe v. Wade, abortion access would fall into individual states to decide.
It won't have an impact here in California because the right to an abortion is recognized under our state Constitution.
Take a look at this map. California, Illinois, New York, and a few other states protect access to abortion in their state constitution. Meanwhile, in Texas, Mississippi, Arizona, and several other states, abortion access is at risk if Roe v. Wade is overturned. The central debate behind the Mississippi case focuses on when a fetus is viable or can live outside the womb. Science since 1973 has progressed to keep babies alive 15 weeks after conception, which is in opposition to the 24 weeks set in Roe v. Wade. Another reality in the abortion debate is financial, as some families and mothers say they simply cannot afford to raise a child. Caitlin, a student at San Diego State University, says it's a difficult decision a lot of women face.
And it's expensive to have a child, so not only to have an abortion would be expensive, but to actually raise a child in the long run would also be expensive too.
Anti-abortion advocates say the idea that having abortions will reduce poverty across America is not true, saying since Roe v. Wade, poverty is still an American reality. Anne Marie, another student at SDSU, says she'd be disappointed if the law was overturned.
If they're not able to afford to go to another state or go to some other clinic and that will provide them that service, it turns something very dangerous, and I think the rates for women dying because of abortion will only rise.
The Guttmacher Institute, which studies women's reproductive health worldwide, says where abortion is illegal or highly restricted, women resort to unsafe means to end an unwanted pregnancy, including self-inflicted abdominal and bodily trauma, ingestion of dangerous chemicals, among other things.
Now, this is just the beginning of a longer process because a decision on this case is not expected until next year, summer of 2022. But I do have to tell you, a CBS News poll last week found that the majority of Americans support keeping Roe v. Wade. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely another contentious court case there.
Yeah. Huge ramifications. Going to be a big turn for the court to go against precedent. We'll see what happens. Thanks, Kirsten.
Meantime, the trial of former La Mesa police officer Matt Dagus was back in session in the East County today. Amari Johnson, the man Dagus arrested at a Grossmont trolley stop, testified. However, the trial does not center around the arrest. Its focus is on whether Dagus lied in a police report after. He faces 3 years behind bars if found guilty.
A wild high-speed chase across San Diego came to a chaotic end in El Cajon this morning with a domestic violence suspect under arrest. It started in City Heights around 7 when police responded to reports of a man threatening someone with a gun. That man got into an SUV and drove off, racing along local freeways, at times reaching speeds of 100 miles per hour. It all came to an end at a narco station in El Cajon, just off the 8 freeway. Security cameras you see show the driver hit another car while trying to get away. You can see sparks flying under the SUV. We talked with the woman who owns that red car soon after it was hit.
They couldn't get him out. They didn't get him out right away. They got him out. It was a rough start to a nice day.
It was a bad start, but the good news is the woman was not hurt. Police have not said which charges the man will be facing.